All right, magic makers. Today we are going to take a dive into the journey of transformation that women over 40 who are tired of being on that dieting roller coaster and who are ready to say, diet does not control my life. I control my diet. If you are that chronic dieter who is feeling stuck in frustration, you're feeling guilty when you're working out, feeling guilty that you're not working out, feeling guilty about what you ate, that endless food obsession, you are in the right place. It's time to say goodbye to the days of being Debbie Dieter, where every meal feels like a test. Every slip up is like, oh my God, the world's going to end. And it's finally time to embrace who I call Reality Rita. She is that woman who has dared to break free from the chains of diet culture, who has decided that it's okay that I can find a path to sustainable health and happiness. So today we are going to explore how can we go from punishing ourselves with our diet and exercises that have held us back, guilty as charged, to how do we step into a life where food and fitness no longer are the center of your universe. It's time for us to really rewrite our story and become more empowered and confident around food and exercise, because we were not meant to be just how much we work out and how much we eat. And I'm ready to help you make that change together. So let me just take a step back. And so, it's always around this time of year, my memories come up in Facebook. And this is maybe about 10 years ago. My husband and I went on a lifelong dream trip. We spent 30 days in New Zealand and Australia. And I was already starting to feel like, you know what, I was on the brink of I can't keep up the pace with my diet and exercise. Like, I couldn't keep up the pace of my 2-hour workouts. And I was just so exhausted from wondering good food, bad food. I was also at the beginning of, at the time, not knowing perimenopause. And so it was just getting harder and harder to keep up with my routine. So we went to, so we're going on vacation, and I said, you know what, this is Philip's trip as well. That's my husband's name, just so you know. And I said, I don't want to be the trip revolve around my needs. I want it to be a trip because we're probably never going to go back there. So I said, okay, how can I relax a little bit, enjoy this trip, but not lose my shit? And that's usually how vacations go. I mean, you probably the same way. You go on vacation and you're like, woohoo, eat and drink like a Viking, and you come back and you're like, want to make it up. And I was like, how can I go on this 30-day trip? Because I've never gone on vacation for 30 days. How do I go on this 30-day trip and not lose my stuff? And so I said, okay, and this is where I came up with what I call my non-negotiables. Like, what are my non-negotiables? And I was like, what are just something that's really easy, that's not this, if the stars align, I can do it. And I came up with my 3 original non-negotiables. And it was like, okay, I can control sleep. I can control vegetables. So I'm going to have a salad every single day. I said lunch, but it could be any meal. I'm going to have a salad. And then my last thing was like, okay, working out. I'm like, I typically work out 6 days a week, but I'm like, let's cut that in half. Like, can I work out at least 3 days a week and get in at least 7,500 steps? So that was okay, if I can do these 3 things, I will feel like I'm doing enough, right? Quote unquote. And that's how it started. I went away for 30 days and I kept that up. And it was like, God, that felt so easy. Like, damn. Like, I was just like, wow, I was putting so much bleeping pressure on myself to do all the things, right? My laundry list of what I had to do was so freaking long. And it just was so it was just like someone lifted a stone off my back. It was so freaking freeing. So if that sounds like you, keep listening, because I was a desperate dieter. Right. At this point, I'd probably stopped competing for probably like 3 or 4 years. And I never really understood how to not have this, I typically competed in April, I competed in June, and then I competed in November. So I didn't have those way marks anymore. So I was really lost. for like 3 years. And so I was like, I didn't know how to just like eat like a regular folk. And that was a bit of a challenge for me. So before we get, I wanted to give you that background before we got really deep into this. So let's take a step back. How do you know if you are a desperate Debbie dieter? And so Debbie dieter punishes herself with food. It's either you're either on the wagon or you're off the wagon. You had a big weekend. Like, oh, this week I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to crush it. Like this Monday, it's going to be the big thing. I'm going to vegan because that's healthy. Intermittent fasting because Joan at the gym is doing it and she lost 400 pounds. So that's how I'm going to lose 400 pounds. Stan, I saw him at the cocktail party. He's doing keto. So that's where I'm going to go. You want, but you in deep inside, you're like, I want to feel so confident around food that I don't have to find something to do. You're trying to be consistent with it, but like you have these rules that like for some reason, if life doesn't go exactly the way you need it to go, you're out the door. Like your whole diet like falls apart. You keep stressing over every mistake. You're like, oh my God, it's a catastrophe because I went to a party and I had one extra breadstick. Oh my God, I went to a party and I just lost my shit on the chips and guac. Like, that is desperate dieter, feeling guilty because I missed a workout. I was sick this week and I couldn't go to the gym. My kid was sick this week. I couldn't go to the gym. That is like you're feeling like you must follow a diet. Like feeling like, every workout is like, this is the workout that's going to break open all of my results, right? That is Debbie Dieter. And I was there. I was Debbie Dieter. Like there was a picture, my picture would be right up there. And if you identify that, I would love to hear that. Like screenshot this and be like, I'm Debbie. And so after my trip, I started to realize that I could not be crazy around food and exercise. I could have some sustainability about that. I could start doing things that I was excited about. Like sometimes I would be literally going to the gym because I had to go to the gym. There was no joy. There was no joy in going to the gym. I would just push my body because that was just what I knew. And I had to really just start to really listen and learn and understand what my body was capable of doing at this point in time. I wasn't trying to get on stage to cover 3 inches of fabric across my ass. I was like, how does like regular folk live? Reality Rita. So Reality Rita was accountable for her actions, right? So like these swings, I had to figure out how to keep those swings from going super big and keep them from going super low. Um, Create a weekly plan, right? Create a weekly plan that gave me flexibility that wasn't like, a drill sergeant. Owning being able to slow down, like having that moment to be like, it's okay if I slow down, getting uncomfortable with my own shit. Like just owning that change isn't going to be a slam dunk. Like I'm going to have to practice this. It took me almost a decade of practicing how I was. So that rewiring wasn't going to be in a week, right? It was going to be like I needed to give myself that time and that space. I had to have the courage to try new things, to courage to be like, if I only go to the gym 5 days this week, what's going to happen? If I prioritize, protein, what's going to happen? If I, decide that I'm not going to always eat the same exact food, what's going to happen? So I had to get creative and start to understand what consistency would look like for me. So I didn't have these big highs and these big lows. And so this is what I know. If you feel like you're Reality Rita, do me a favor. Screenshot this and say Rita. But this is what I know. Desperate Debbie might be thinking she's getting by, but she's suffering in silence because even though I know that if you're still listening right now, there's a piece right here, and maybe I triggered you. And if I did, I want to trigger you because maybe there's this little voice that's like, I can't anymore. Uncle, I'm trying too hard. I can't sustain this piece. I'm pissed that I can't lose this weight. Menopause is kicking my freaking ass. maybe that's what's right here. Because I know that reality Rita, she gets everything she wants. She gets everything she wants because she's willing to pause. She's willing to accept that has to own her choices. She's willing to accept that she needs to get connected with what the hell is she doing versus chasing, chasing, chasing. And she's got the courage, right? She's got the courage to be curious enough to say, is there something else out there? And so as you are starting to, think about this, and trust me, like I didn't realize how desperate I was when I was in the throes of it. But this vacation kind of really put the mirror up to me. And when you have that damn mirror up in your face, damn, it's so hard to like have all of the things that you're chasing just stare back at you. So one of the ways I was able to break free, and one of the ways I help clients break free, is that I really work with them to get clear about what their goals are. If you work with me before, or if you've listened to anything I said, you hear me say squishy goals, right? And a lot of times you come to me and you have what I call squishy goals. Squishy goals are, I want to lose some weight. I want to tone up. I want to get in better shape. What the hell does that mean? You know, when I say squishy, I want you to be able to concretely say what it is that you're chasing, because as a coach, I want to be able to say, if you told me you want to tone up, great. What does that look like in your mind? So that when I'm looking at a picture of you, I know that we got there, right? Because what I see with a lot of people is that you set this, I want to tone up, it's a squishy ass goal. And because you haven't clearly defined it, that goal mark keeps moving and moving and moving and moving and moving. And so we never hit that goal. I want you to hit a goal so that you have some wins under your belt. You have evidence that it's possible for you. And then we can move on to the next thing. As you start to break it free, I want Debbie to understand that you own your nutritional choices. Like you own what your nutritional choices are versus blindly following some menu, some food rules, some lists that has just kept you like stuck in this spiral. Because I want you to ask yourself, if the way you're eating and exercising has given you the results that you want, rock on with your bad self. If it is causing you any mental exhaustion, you can't keep the pace for at least 80% of the time. And when I talk 80% of the time, it's not like, I want you to have fun foods, but in that fun food zone, are you eating back at almost half the calories you ate during that 80%? So making this number up. So I love 80/20 and I'm cool with that. So let's just say your 80/20 is you eat 2,000 calories, right? So if 80% eating a nice healthy diet is 2,000 calories. If my fun meals are like 3,000 calories, then I've completely lost sight of the 80/20. So I'm back into overeating, even though 80% of my nutrition was on target. So that's what I'm saying. You're connected to your goals. Like, so one of the ways that I help you is that we figure out what exactly is your why. Why do you want this change in your health? And it doesn't have to necessarily be weight loss. One of the best whys that I heard, when I started transitioning from being more of a physique type coach to just a more lifestyle coach, was my client Mandy. She was like, for the first time in a long time, I have energy to play with my kid, right? How many of you come home and you're just like dead on your feet, like dead man walking or dead woman walking, and you're like, oh, excuse me, like speaking of energy, I yawned. You're like, I would kill to have, 20 minutes of energy to play with my kids, or not be exhausted watching them play whatever sport that they might be in, or dance it would be in. To break free, I also need to start to get creative with how I'm going to get to my goals. Like, be curious, as well as being curious about other possibilities. I was caught in that bodybuilding world for a really long time. and it was like 5 meals a day, protein forward, 6 days a week workout, body part splits. All of that was so ingrained and indoctrinated into me that I had to start to be like, you know what? I don't have time for 6 days a week. Or actually, I do have time. I don't want to make that time anymore. That's what I should say. I did not want to make that time anymore because I was always finding ways. I was always also was injured. Um, and I didn't want to always be like scrutinizing the menu before I went to any social event, or, make sure I pre-ate before I went to an event so that I didn't lose my stuff. Um, and just have the courage to say, you know what? I'm ready. Like, I'm going to experiment, right? I did a 30-day experiment. I had nothing to lose in those 30 days. And you have nothing to lose, right? So here's where, for reality Rita, she realizes that consistency is where she lives, right? Consistency is home. And the road to becoming reality Rita is paved with figuring out how can I create systems, routines, habits in my life that make eating feel effortless, right? That there's no longer all of this like mental chatter before you put the fork to your mouth, right? And so women who understand these 5 steps will easily break free of being a desperate dieter and really start to break free. So the 5 things that you really need to understand to break free is: one, clear goals. You need clear goals. What is it that you're trying to achieve? And when I say clear goals, there should be some type of metric. I want to sleep more. Okay, how many more hours do you want to sleep? I want to work out more. Okay, great. What's more for you? Is it time? Is it days of the week? And hell, I would take it even the next step. Like, what are the days of the week and what time? And just put that in your calendar. I want to get more tone. Great. So you want to build more muscle? Is that what you're looking at? Do we want more visible muscle? So that means, are we looking to increase muscle mass, or are we looking to lose body fat? Right. So you see how like you're getting so granular, so specific that you know exactly what road you're walking down, and your coach knows exactly what road you're walking down. You understand choices. You have choices, right? I break down my choices in my program, Belly Fat Code. I talk about choices that I have, like an informed decision, right? Before I go, I make a decision. How is the night going to go? Or I make an in the moment choice. And whatever I do, I own it. So those are 2 distinct mindsets as you go into fun events. You have a connection. So that connection is your why, right? You are so connected to it that on a cold day in February here in Boston, and you work out at 6 o'clock in the morning and it's dark, maybe it's snowy, maybe it's 2 degrees outside, that alarm goes off and you're like, oh, hell no. You go back to, why do I want this? If I'm going to have more energy to play with my kids, if I'm going to look good naked, if I'm going to hike Kilimanjaro, whatever the hell you're doing, I need to get my booty out of this bed. Willing to be creative. The way you are approaching it, if it's not working, it's time to get creative. Can I take a different approach to how's it going? And have the courage. Tell myself, you know what? I know that this is not something I've done before, but I'm giving it 30 days. And here it's going back to my clarity, is that this is how I'm going to measure it. So in 30 days, I can assess if what I'm doing is working. And then we can, adjust and tweak from there. And finally, building my way to consistency. What are the things that I know I can easily put on repeat that don't require a lot of heavy lifting, right? So as the next few areas, I want to just kind of point out some of the glaring things that I see what Debbie Dieter would do. And I'm going to say, what are the things that reality Rita would change, right? So I just gave you that list of 5 things. So as a coach, I would say, okay, Deb, let's see what would happen if we increase our calories, because many women come to me and they are under eating. I see it all the time. They're under eating. And I said, okay, let's see if we upped our calories a little bit, what changes would happen to your body. Debbie Dieter would freak the fuck out. Reality Rita would say, okay, I'm confident that if you're telling me to increase my calories, I may immediately gain weight. But this might be exactly what I need to break through the plateau. I'm willing to give it a try for 30 days to see what happens. And 9 times out of 10, many of my women, because they have been functioning in this like low zone, the best way I can describe it is gas tank, your gas tank. So, we have our full tank, right? So we have that full tank of gas. So it's all the way to the right is like full tank of gas. So that's that 2000 calories, right? So we're working on 2000 calories. Now, many of us are working in that like quarter tank mode. And maybe that your get gas light has come on, and you might be 50 miles from running out of gas. So what I'm saying is, let's go with that full tank so I can go anywhere I want. My car is like, hey, we have plenty of gas. We don't have to worry about a damn thing. That's where, reality Rita lives. Like, let's see how far we can get in this gas tank. Like, let's push it all the way to the full mark and see what happens. How long does it take me to get down in that gas tank versus operating from this like, oh, we got a quarter tank, we can only go, however long a quarter of a tank last you. Debbie is, when she eats, she's either stuffed or she's starving, right? There's no in between. There's no in between. Where Rita says, you know what? I'm going to eat this. There's more where this came from. I'm going to put a portion on my plate, and I'm going to eat this. I'm going to put down my fork in between my bites. I'm guilty. I was a very fast eater, and it was because I always lived in the starving. My gas tank was always at a quarter of a tank. I was always starving, and I didn't understand how to like get my gas tank past quarter of a tank. My check engine light, my get fuel light was always freaking on. And so Rita is like, hey, it's okay to it's okay to put a full tank of gas in there. It's okay to slow down your eating. I was literally a fast eater, and I had to slow that down to give my brain time to process what happened in my mouth, what happened in my stomach. And roughly it takes about 20 minutes from, the time you finish a meal to the time your brain gets the signal, hey, we have filled the tank. So think about, how many times are you either starving or you stuffed? And can we add some like mindfulness around your meals? Debbie is afraid of social events. And so she freaks out if she gets that dinner party invitation, because you can't really control food, or you can't be like, I know you invited me over for dinner, but what exactly are you cooking, and how exactly are you cooking it? Are you using seed oils? Are you using anything white? Like, you don't want to be that person. If you're that person, stop. For the love of God, stop. Or probably at this point, people have not invited your ass over in a long ass time. Or you're Googling restaurants like, oh my God, what do they have? What do they have? What do they have? What do they have? And always wondering, what the fuck am I going to eat if you take on the social event? One of my clients, she is single, and she's like, the biggest thing is that I can go on dates and not freak out, right? Not like ask the guy 20 million questions about the restaurant and worry about what I'm going to eat. She's like, I used to pretend I was this foodie because I would ask all these questions about the restaurant. But she's like, I'm no damn foodie. I just wanted to know so I could Google the restaurant and pre-pick my food without freaking out, so that I could, make sure I could have a glass of wine without being a weirdo. And so that's what I'm looking for. Excuse me. I want you to be able to go on, a date, go on a date night with your sweetie and not feel like you have to like scour the menu like you're being tested on it, or go to a friend's house and just be like in the moment and enjoy the social aspect of the night versus what are they going to serve? What are they going to serve? Oh my God, I can't eat that. Oh, is it going to look weird if I don't have that? Oh my God, it's going to look weird if I don't have any alcohol. Like, woo, gosh, we don't need that mental chatter. So when it comes to reality Rita has what I call pre-game decisions. So she's going to go to a friend's house for dinner. Hey, I love Sarah. Going to dinner. It's going to be fine. And it is what it is. I'm just going to make sure before I head to that event, I'm going to make sure that I'm having nothing off track. And that's going to be my off track meal for the week. Or live in that moment. You know, maybe you are going to a restaurant and it's a restaurant that you've been to before and you're like, okay, I love Mexican food. So maybe you go to a Mexican restaurant and you're like, okay, before, your pre-game decision is, you know what, we're only going to have one basket of chips. That's it. If they say, oh, do you want a refill? I'm going to say no. I'm going to have one margarita and I'm going to have, a fajita, and they can leave the tortillas in the kitchen, right? That is a pre-game decision. So there's two pre-game decisions of like, hey, this is just going to be the night, or you're like, here's how the night is going to flow for me. The second thing we have those in the moment. So you're like, hey, I'm going out to dinner and this is going to be an off-track meal. I don't have to lose my ever-loving mind, but I'm not going to Google search everything on the menu. I know that I can get some type of protein there. I know I can get some type of vegetable there, and it's going to be fine. Right. So those are, where reality Rita lives. Debbie tells herself no rest days or yoga or Pilates on rest days, right? Like no pain, no gain. Where Rita is like, I need at least 2 rest days on my calendar. Walking is great, right? Walking is an exercise, where Debbie would be like, if I'm not sweating from the eyeballs, I'm not like struggling to get through the workout, it doesn't count as a workout. Where Rita is like, you know what? I'm moving my body. I know that I get more boost of calorie burn just by being active than I do from a traditional workout. And the key here is that when I do those brutal kill myself type workouts, I am trash for a couple of days, where if I scale back my workout, I scale back the time, I scale back the intensity, then, or honor my body in the intensity. So that's what I really want to say is I want you to honor yourself in that intensity, because some days you can have it that you can crush. And some days you're like, I'm just not feeling it. And I'm just going to sometimes you have to go through the motion. I like to classify workouts as like red, yellow, green, right? So it's like the stoplight. So like red is, you didn't get a good night's sleep. And I have some of you guys listening, you are the dawn patrol girls and you get up at like 4 a.m. and you're at the gym by like 5 a.m. Right behind the person who opens, but you got shit sleep. But I'm a 5 a.m.er, so I must go to the gym, right? So that's a day that I might just say, hey, listen to your body, friend. Like just take a beat, right? Rita would take a beat. Deb, she's like, I'm a 5 a.m.er, I must freaking go. Yellow is, okay, I had an okay night's sleep, but I'm still feeling a little lethargic. Maybe I feel a little cold coming on. So instead of crushing at the gym, I'm going to be like, maybe instead of being at 100%, I'm going to work out at about 60, 70% of my workout. Maybe my weights are, 5 pounds less than what I did the last time I did this workout, but I'm just working that through. And then green is like, boom, I'm ready to crush. Let's do this. Great night's sleep. I feel recharged. I feel recovered from my last workout. Let's get some shit done. So that's where I want you to kind of start thinking about versus, being Deb, who's like, it's on my calendar, I must get it done. And, we all have those days. Last Wednesday, I was at the gym and I got a crap night's sleep. I don't really know why I got a crap night's sleep, and I woke up, I ended up going to the gym, and I said, "You know what? I'm just gonna, like, this is gonna be a mail-in workout," right? I didn't really go crazy, with lifting the weights. I didn't go crazy. I did, like, a walk after it for 20 minutes, and I was just like, I was satisfied with that workout. It was a solid yellow workout. Um, Deb looks for the newest diet, always looking for the newest diet. Every January, she does Whole30, and by January 31st, she's back to her old ways. If neighbor Pam is doing a cleanse or a detox, she's doing a cleanse or a detox. Where reality Rita, she's like, I know exactly what works best for my body. I've taken the time to learn this stuff. I know that I can never go wrong with having protein, fibrous vegetables. Those are my BFFs. If I have that, I know I'm really good. Sprinkle in some starch, add in some good fats. I know that that is really good for me. The point I'm trying to make here is that you have a choice. You can choose to just constantly be chasing something, or you can find a way to embrace, find a way to weave health and fitness into your um, everyday life. And it's like, this is what I know. When you know better, you make better decisions. But in order to make those better decisions, I have to slow myself down. I have to be willing to experiment. I have to get curious about what else is out there so that I stop chasing. I stop chasing that someday. I have clients who are like, they don't work out. Like, oh, Kim, work is really crazy. Work is really crazy. Well, work has been really crazy for a year. When are you going to create a boundary? And in the last few podcast episodes, I've been talking with some of my guests, and the word boundary has come up a lot. And so, in order for us to break free of being Deb, there have to be boundaries, right? You have boundaries around, I'm not going to eat seed oils, right? You have that hard boundary. Yeah, you don't have a hard boundary around a bedtime. You don't have a hard boundary around, I'm going to craft out 15 minutes to work out, 15 minutes to do breath work for stress management, right? So how do we start to craft boundaries around things that are going to really move the dial forward? Because, every time I go to visit my parents in Florida, I see frailty. I see it. And every time I see it, I tell myself, I don't want to end up like that. I know that the steps I take right now will save me from 30 years from now, right? I want to look at myself 30 years from now and how do I want to be? How do I want to live my life? And I know for me, 30 years from now, I still want to be able to easily be working out, easily be able walking unassisted. And in order to get to that, I have to get my shit together. And I want to ask you, how do we turn your someday into today? How do we stop kicking it down the line and saying, I need to be in a size 5. I need to be what I look like at age 30. I have to keep up with the same program, same routine that I did when I was 30, 35. Yet my life has dramatically changed. I have clients who I'm fortunate. I have clients who I've had for a really long time. But as we've worked together, their lives have evolved. You've moved up in your company. You've had multiple children. Maybe now you're dealing with aging parents and you're trying to fit your, career, your kids, your aging parent all together. And you just don't have the time that you used to have. So how can I change things up, but still hit my goal? Because I'm going to tell you, menopause does throw us a curveball for sure. However, the curveball primarily is that we keep trying to do what we did when we were 30, 35. We we don't have that capacity anymore. We don't have enough progesterone in our bodies to manage that load anymore. And we need to start reevaluating where we are right now versus where we were in the past. And that's the crux of this conversation, is that assess where I am right now. Am I Debbie? I can change, right? Am I somewhere between solid Debbie and, a little Rita? Where am I? Make that assessment. If you want to have a conversation, do me a favor, raise your hand. I am wide open to have that conversation with you, because I know how freeing it was when I finally like lifted my head out and I stopped being Debbie. So to get to the Rita side, we need to clearly define our goals. What is it that we want? And what one step you can take this week, hell, today, to start to move closer and closer to reader. And I'm gonna go a little on the limb here. What is one BS thing that you do that you can stop doing? So one BS thing is that, like, if you still work in an office, is there like a treat bowl that you walk by and you always scoop up some candies? Is it at 4 o'clock you always go to the vending machine and get, whatever it is? I'm a sucker for peanut M&Ms. But do you go and get that, or some chips or what have you? Like, so think to yourself, like, clearly define, what is it that I really want, right? The more clear I am, the more likely I'm able to go get it. And if you're like, I need help with that, holla, I can help you with that. And then what's one step that you could take today? And I would love to hear that. Do me a favor, screenshot this episode and tell me what's your one step. So knowing better is the key to taking that one step forward. And you can decide how it's going to go today. So I'd love to hear, how are you feeling? Did I trigger you? Great. But is that trigger giving you resistance, or is that trigger giving you inspiration? Magic makers, thank you so much for listening. And my hope is that we can start to break free from defining ourselves by whatever hell diet we are on, and start saying, I just live, right? I live an effortless life where I'm no longer tied to how many hours I spend at the gym or some named diet program. Enjoy the rest of your day, magic makers. I appreciate each and every one of you.